Hi, Coffee and Convo listeners. Just waiting for a couple of you to jump on. Just wanted to jump on here and check in and see how everyone is going this election day weekend. I know we are all tired and ready for Tuesday. Hi, fellow podcaster. What's your podcast about? So just on here waiting for a couple of people to join. My friend Alexis is going to jump on with me and kind of talk voting. It is important. We are hearing about it from everyone all over. Just a couple more days. Hello, Alexis. You go all over the place? Yeah, that's pretty much how my podcast is too. We go all
Hi,
over. Hi, friend. How are you?
good. How are you? Ooh,
So I was just pretty good, pretty good. I actually was out today with a politician, a local politician. She's running for state rep. And we were like out doing that last push, just dropping off some literature. So I'm tired.
understand.
The person I was with, he's like this white guy. He's a bicyclist. And I say this because he is super thin. And you know how bicyclists are. They're like really athletic. I am not. So like I'm winded and we're walking up the hill and he's fine. He's just fine.
It's doing great, right?
He's doing great and I'm just like, can we slow down? But thank you for joining. So I just wanted to check in with people and see how they're doing. There's like this election fatigue. I feel like there's just all this information. Now it's like the big day. It's just a couple days out. How are you dealing with all of that? Are you feeling this election fatigue?
Well, I think it might be a little different for me. One, I already voted, so
Whoop whoop,
um,
me too.
yeah, and I sent it in, and like we talked about the last podcast I was on, I sent my absentee ballot in after I got it, like basically the same day because I already knew who I was voting for. So not really, even though somebody who me and you talked privately about, I won't say on here, that I was not voting for, one of their people like texted me like, please vote for such and such. And I was like, I'm not for them. Thank you. Please don't text me again. And they were like, okay. So, I
Right.
mean,
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's interesting because even like so like in previous years, like when people are going to the polls, you have like a lot of politicians, like they're out there with their literature making like that last push. But I feel like people now, like weeks ahead, knew what they were doing, and like so many people have cast their ballot. So I think, like, do you think it's just this election, or do you think like there's like this change in culture where people already know who they're voting for weeks in advance?
well, I think it's important to remember the demographic whose voting has changed.
Mm,
So if we talk about like voting just a decade ago, this is
mm-hmm,
2020, so a decade ago was 2010. A lot of millennials who are now in their 30s, it was their first time voting. So the first time I ever voted an election, Obama was running for office, and that was the first year I ever voted. Not just
mm-hmm,
in a major election, just period, because
mm-hmm,
I was born 1990, so I turned 18 in 2008.
mm-hmm,
So we're also part of that group who, like, we lived through September 11th. A lot of
mm-hmm,
millennials, we were kids when it happened. We lived through our parents losing their houses and losing their
mm-hmm.
jobs because of politicians. Big crisis
Uh-oh, we lost
happened.
you a little bit.
Oh, wait a second.
Yep, you're
You
loading.
got me.
Yep, you're back. You're back.
Oh, I was saying that basically it's different for us. So we have different information than our parents. I think that's one thing. And then the second thing is that during this age it's just overexposure to everything, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
watch like you don't have to watch television anymore to get your information. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can do it through different media. And then on top of that, all of us know, like, if we go on social media at all, we're flooded. Anyone who's on here, who's on Instagram knows, like, you're flooded all the time with information. And it's a lot. And so it's different now. So maybe that's what it is. It's just culturally, election season feels a lot longer. When I was
Mm,
growing up through election season, like the first election season I remember was, and I don't think we were as flooded back then. I would have to ask my parents because I was, I'm like, I was really young during that time.
mm-hmm.
But from talking
But
to
also
them, it was
the,
different.
the pandemic. I think the pandemic and being so our access to information and what we have to distract us. Like before, I feel like politicians really had to work to cut through the noise. But because so many issues this year were rooted in politics, whether it was like healthcare, response to this, the economy, like everything tied back to what are our leaders doing. So I just think like our ability to like ignore it was just it was hard. This was all that it consumed everything, and like the closer we got to election day, or we continue to get, everything just ties back, whether it was like racial injustice, whether it was just anything, it just all tied back to politics and what were our leaders doing. So I think it's even harder to escape that, and so people really are invested in voting this year.
Yeah, that's true too. It feels like 2008 all over again to me. Um
Mm,
it kind of feels like that all over again. And maybe it's because like in 2008 we like that election was really important because we were in a recession, we were in an economic
yeah, there
crisis.
was a
And
lot on the line.
yeah, and this time the same thing. There's a lot on the line. Like people are literally dying, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
like, sometimes, that is like when people say that like people are out here dying, da 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 da, like sometimes people will be like, oh, that's hyperbole, like that's not true, like people might be
Like literally,
dying, but
like
no,
literally.
literally people are dying. And like almost everybody knows someone who has died from COVID or from what's going on right now with just issues, or if you don't know someone directly, you know someone who's had someone, you
Absolutely.
know.
Like the intersectionalities of the issues, again, it was just hard to escape. I mean, if it didn't affect you, it affected someone personal or someone close to you, because of just the nature of this year. And I think um, it was just interesting. Let me pick your brain on this. What do you think? I loved seeing all the different, whether they were from theater actors to movie actors, musicians. We had so many people out there having content around voting. What are your thoughts about that?
So, I think I've told you my personal feelings. I really do not think that, and this is particular to the Democratic Party because they do that a lot. I am a registered Dem, so I have the right to talk junk about these people, okay? They need to stop being so reliant on celebrity.
Mm,
They just need to tell people the truth. Like the Dems are so anti. Let me tell you how that party sucks and how we don't. So then there's all these memes out there that other people created. And I just want someone from the Democratic Party, like from the DNC, to just outright say, like, our politics are better. We don't want you to die. We actually feed homeless people. We want to house them and we care about children. And when your children die, we want to fix it.
mm,
Just call a spade a spade. The
mm.
Republicans, like the Michael Jackson song, they don't really care about us.
I
Just
can't.
say, just
I
say
can't.
the Republicans don't really care about you. Like, just do that. It's not, like we're sitting here relying on like, nothing against these people. Jesse Williams, love him, great actor, love Grey's Anatomy. Amanda Seales, great woman, great comedian, former rapper, great actress. All right. Kerry Washington, wonderful actress, right?
She's pushing like the vote, but like her and Viola Davis have been having some really great voting content.
Yeah, like Viola, I love you. Like that snot cry thing you do, man. Ma'am. Love it. Love it. But ma'am, you are also not a politician.
So
And I
like
want
I
the
feel the
Democrats
opposite.
to
Like I liked the bipartisan effort of just like vote, vote, vote. Because I feel like, and like this is just for me, like especially seeing like with the Supreme Court nominee and how predictable it was, right? The Republicans, except for one, all voted to like, okay, we're gonna push her in because we have a Republican in office and he wants it. I like that we saw a lot more bipartisan of just like get out there and vote, get out there and be knowledgeable, get out there and use your vote. Because I really think that we need to like we talked about on the podcast, not vote by party line, because when they get there in office, they only voted with each other. And like that's not the same for all over. And you know, like we talked about, the federal and the state is different than like local vote Biden. Girl, yes. The local politics are different. But I do think you need a mix in office. And I think we need to be smart about who's voting what. Like I think all those people that voted just because they were Republican voted to get that child, Amy what's her name? The
Amy
Supreme
Coney,
Court. Thank you.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Oh,
I know that woman.
that
I
woman.
know that woman.
They all need to be out of office because you did not vote for the people. You voted by party, and like that is not politics. That is a game. That is not politics. Politics is looking at the facts, looking at what the people want, and voting by that. And I think they all need to be voted out because they did not look at the people.
See, this is my feeling about it.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be weird or whatever, but I'm just saying this as an attorney. Amy Coney Barrett, I feel like whether people really know it or not, Amy Coney Barrett is essentially Clarence Thomas all over again. Because if we remember when we got, rest in peace also to Thurgood Marshall, the first Black Supreme Court justice. We got Thurgood Marshall, who was innovative, and I think people don't really think about it, but Thurgood Marshall and RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, had a relationship. This is before they both sat on the court. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Thurgood Marshall worked together on cases. I believe they worked together on Brown versus the Board of Education, which is literally like one of the most important cases ever decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. They worked together on this case. Then after they work together on this case, they become Supreme Court justices, and then essentially they're colleagues. So they work together as lawyers and they work together as judges and colleagues. And in my opinion, if it wasn't Amy Coney Barrett, it would have been someone similar to her, because what the Republicans have known to do is they will essentially put somebody on the court that is similar to that person but different enough to get their stuff done. And just like Clarence Thomas and Thurgood Marshall are both Black men, both had legal careers, both worked in government positions before being appointed. Whether we like it or not, for better or worse, Amy Coney Barrett is the only U.S. Supreme Court justice alive who has ever had a child, for better or for worse. I don't think a lot of people realize that. There only been 2 U.S. Supreme Court justices ever in U.S. history that have gotten pregnant and have had a child, and that's been Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's recently passed, and Amy Coney Barrett. And so for better or worse, they purposely put her on there to be like, hey guys, you got that woman who had kids again,
Yeah. So doing something similar enough, but also in their favor. And I think that as voters, we need to be smart about the politics of politics and how I think it goes back to you have to watch, and you have to be watchful, and you have to be aware. And I think we're seeing that, like they say, buyer beware. When you're the same way you're going to go out there and buy hi Margaret, the same way, like when you're going to go out there and buy a product, you have to do your research. You have to do your research with these politicians, because we're seeing they talk a good game, but then they really don't have follow through. And I think that's unfortunate because there's so much on the line. There's so much on the line. And, it was definitely put into action this year as to how dangerous it is just to put people there just because who they are, who they know, or whatever.
I'm sitting here with someone else and he wants to ask you a question, which is he wants to really know, like, from your perspective, what is on the line. I know
Ooh.
I know what's on the line, but he would like to know from your perspective what is on the line.
So for me, I feel that's on the line. That's a really good question. Thank you for that. Um, I feel like a lot of human rights issues, as far as whether that's immigration, healthcare, equality, um, the economy. I feel like, personally, in looking at Trump, I feel like he has not done anything to help people. And for me, being in the human service field and being about people, people are out here, they're struggling. They are struggling, like day to day life, right? Like I don't interact with those that are multimillionaires, right? I know they have money and it seems like they're doing a lot better, but it seems like people are struggling and struggling. And I had a hard time, when immigration was really big, and just hearing about people in the community and how families, like people that have been here, tax paying people here that weren't citizens, were being sent back to countries. And I learned a lot about immigration. Like I didn't realize, like, if you're deported, I thought like, okay, you get deported and you get your paperwork straight and you come on back. Like, no, it's like you get deported, you can't come back. So if your family's here, you can't come back. And like it's not like as easy as like, hey, let's all go back and hop on a plane. And so I just felt like families were on the line. Just human decency was on the line. I feel like we're a laughing stock to countries. Just Americanism, quote unquote, is on the line.
Mm. I mean, I would agree with you in some parts of that. But I really do think that, like, and this is just my personal thing. I think that we need to, as a group, as a total, as a
Mm-hmm.
whole, get away from saying that this man, Trump, is the reason why certain things are going on. As you know, I grew up going to church, and one of the things the church mothers used to say to us is, y'all blaming everything on the devil, and he over in the corner crying because y'all blaming everything on him, and sometimes it's you. And we want to blame
Ooh.
everything. We want to blame everything on Donald Trump, but like, Donald Trump didn't make this country racist. This country was racist
Mm,
way before Donald Trump. Like, Donald
mm,
Trump didn't make people, greedy and not pay their employees proper pay. Like, Donald Trump is not the reason
mm,
why Amazon employees are on welfare. Donald
mm,
Trump is not the reason why Walmart employees don't have a living wage. Like, that's not Donald Trump. That's Americanism.
mm,
And if
mm.
we can't blame everything on him when, you know,
Your audio cut out just a little bit.
it's not his
Uh,
fault.
okay, your audio's back.
Somebody called me. I ignored them. So that's what happened. Sorry. But I was just saying, we got to stop blaming everything on this guy. Like, he's not the reason why some of the things are going on. Like, he's not the CEO of Walmart. He's not the CEO of Amazon. He doesn't run all the corner stores in the country that are paying their employees under the table. Like, the bodegas, because I'm originally from Bridgeport, so there's bodegas everywhere in Bridgeport. He's not in charge of that stuff, and so some of these problems supersede him. So I just think that
Right.
that's
And
the one thing
some of
that
these are,
bothers me.
yeah, and some of these, right, like overall, right, and it goes back to our podcast conversation about even the local politics. Like some of these things are not directly, um, they're like the ripple effects of the presidency, right? Like he sets a tone. I think that because of his rhetoric and because of how he is, I think he has helped to highlight, and show the divide of racism. While it's always been there, I think some of his attitudes and some of the ways he has went about has helped to highlight that and helped to show how big the problem is. But I also think that as far as what's on the line, we see, so like even like in Waterbury, our leadership here, right, our numbers are rising, and there's this failure to draw back and to tighten up on things so that we can protect ourselves. It's like, nope, we're going to keep everything the way they are. And so I think that leadership from the top down has a ripple effect. And had we had leadership at the top, meaning the president, talk about, this is a uniform plan, we're going to go by best practices, this is what we're going to do, whether it's right or wrong or whatever. I think having a uniform plan, or not even a uniform plan, because like we also touched upon earlier in the year in regards to this, different areas are different, how you might need to govern healthcare or whatever. Just saying the Midwest is different than New England, or the southern states, and so on and so forth. But I think having direction is important. And I feel like we went through this year and it was just kind of like, well, we're just going to do what we got to do, and we're not really going to enforce anything. And I don't think that's helpful. I think you need leadership. You need leadership to reinforce and provide relevant, factual information.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's different where you guys are, but I told you, even though I'm still registered to vote in Connecticut and I'm set my absentee, I live in Illinois and have lived here as like a working person, because before I was in law school for about a year and a half, and now I'm full kind of more engaged in what's going on. And Illinois has a democratically controlled House, a democratically controlled Senate, and a Democrat governor. And let me tell you what, these Republicans are not listening to JB Pritzker. So I don't know about that, Liz. I'm gonna be real with you. They are literally the Illinois High School Association, which runs the athletic programs in the state of Illinois, literally told the governor, "Oh, you want to shut down basketball? We don't know about that. We're gonna defy your order." And it took him having a meeting with IHSA to be like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hold up with this basketball stuff." So I don't know. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know if it would be different, because the issue is, especially in a state like Illinois, where the Republicans, where it's like opposite, and on the
Mm,
federal level, the Democrats feel like they're getting pushed and shoved back and shoved
mm,
down. And here in Illinois, the Republicans feel like they're getting pushed back, shoved down, pushed down, and the Democrats control everything. And the Republicans don't like it, and they're very upset about the closures. And the Restaurants Association here in Illinois is very upset, because we're essentially, for the majority of the state, besides like one section of the state, is going back into shutdown practically without the governor saying it's a shutdown. They are. Like,
mm.
restaurants aren't being able to open again. Churches really aren't going to be able to be open again soon, or whatever, how it's looking, because it's going in that direction. And so I really, coming from a very democratically controlled state that's also a lot bigger, because Illinois has about 15 million people. Um, I think close to that. It's different here. It's different, and they do not want to listen to JB Pritzker. And JB Pritzker is richer than Donald Trump, got way more money, because that hotel chain those Pritzkers own, whoo, that's a lot of money. And they don't want to listen to him. They don't care. They don't care. And from the
We
top
have a
down,
question. We have a question here. It says, what do you think the plan will be going forward with the pandemic?
ooh,
I think this is going to be very important. I do. I think this is going to be because I think we're going through another recession. I think we're going to go through another recession. I think that um, whether we like it or not, government is going to have a big part to play as far as making sure communities are supported. So, like here in Connecticut, right? I feel like it's very bipartisan. I think that the parties work together really good here, for the most part. Like in Waterbury, I feel like um, it's more controlled, more like a dictatorship. I feel like the mayor says what's going to go on and this is what's going to do. So like things are kind of like slow as far as change and as far as working together. But I think that plan is definitely going to be, it has to be a collaboration. Like, how we used to be back like when like human services and stuff, and like when everything was starting to be together, and like the church was very helpful in community support and government
mm-hmm.
support. Like, I think we're going to need to go back to more of like a community care. And I think that's going to be different between each and every community, right? So like here in Waterbury, we have a lot of churches. So having the churches help, having different, we have a lot of nonprofits. I think we're going to have to come together and say, how do we, I think we're going to have a housing crisis for
Yeah.
sure. Like the number of places that are in foreclosure. So I think it's really going to have to be from the president really going down to the governors and senators saying, hey, what do you need and how do we support you? Like, I think it's definitely going to have to be an exchange. What about you, Lexus?
I mean, I think the thing is from my perspective, also being a government employee,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the government is going to be as involved as we all feel they should be, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people aren't really thinking about it, but the government's in totality, state, local, and federal governments are also going to be in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on LinkedIn maybe 3-4 days ago, and somebody on my LinkedIn who I went to law school with is a financial analyst, and one of my professors from law school is also a tax attorney and a CPA. And from their perspective, what they think is going to happen is the government is going to do several bailouts, but Generation Z is going to end up paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they really think. And I
Mm-hmm.
totally agree with them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be like, a lot of people think this money is free. It's not free. And at a certain point, when the government is not collecting taxes and they're doing bailouts over and over and over again, where do you think this money is coming from? Like, money doesn't fall from the sky. As much as we're like, money is a construct. Yes, it is, but at the same time, it's based in reality. The construct is based in the idea that the US government is going to pay back its debts to whatever country. And so I personally think that it's going to be, as someone said, will the rules be stricter? Yes, the rules will be stricter, but it will be a state by state issue, because I think even if Biden's elected, I don't see Biden going on a mic and being like, every single state gotta do this. He's not gonna do that.
Yeah, I love these two comments here about from Chaotic Neutral about feeling overwhelmed. Absolutely. Feeling like it's all piled onto us and we need to do more. Absolutely. And I feel like sometimes there's this pushback between government saying it's the responsibility of the people and the people saying it's the responsibility of a government. My personal feeling, right, and this might be like utopia thinking, but I feel like we're going to have to, this is going to force us to go to a restructuring. Whether we like it or not, we're really going to have to think about our whole systems, because like you mentioned, Alexis, I feel like it's businesses are going to need to be bailed out. Like, I just feel like if we continue on as if this virus never happened, like, we're not going to be able to function. People have lost jobs, people are in loads of debt. So you're going to need to go through a restructuring. And as far as getting whether it's going to be more stricter or more relaxed, I think that depends on who's in office. And I think that's going to be the most thing that's overwhelming and scary come Tuesday. And first of all, Tuesday, I don't think we're going to find out who won. I think it's going to be a couple weeks before we find out who has won. And I think even then it's going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, I think. Oh, give me a second, Liz. Sorry.
Yep.
I agree that that's going to be an issue. Oh, the sun is in my eye.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's definitely going to be an issue. I think a lot of people, like, I posted something, I believe you posted it too, to your Instagram about like how the electoral college works and
Yeah.
and how it functions, and like what is the path to victory for Trump versus what's the path to victory for Biden. And thinking about like the path to victory of how that functions and works, I already know like Tuesday night is going to be the only way. Tuesday night we go to bed and know who the president is if Trump or Biden, they would have to win Florida and Pennsylvania. So if either one of them win Florida, Minnesota, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, the other
Mm-hmm.
person would be blown out, and there would be no reason to wait on the other states. There'd be no
Absolutely.
reason to wait on those.
Absolutely. I love this question. Alexis, you go first on this one. Are the older generations doing the most that they can on their position? What do you think?
Okay, when you say older generations, do you mean the forgotten generation, which is Generation X, which, or do you mean, because nobody, me, you, Liz, we know nobody talks about Generation X. Generation X is nobody remembers them. Or are we talking about the baby boomers? Because if we're talking about the
Can you
baby
pop
boomers,
in some time frames for people who might not know baby boomers and Generation X? And if you don't have those off the top of your head, that's fine.
so baby boomers, the
Chaotic,
youngest,
either is fine.
yeah, the youngest baby boomers, I believe they should be in their 70s now.
Mm.
So like 70s, early 60s. Some of them might be in their 50s. So I want to say the cutoff is like 1960 something, like the early 1960s. And then the
Mm.
Generation X, which nobody talks about, is, you know, the generation that we all know and love, because that's the generation of Diddy and Jay-Z and, you know, of Nas, all of those people, you know, all the people that generation why the millennials looked up to, like, oh my god, I love these rappers, I love making the band. So that's Generation X. So I'll talk about both groups. So because a lot of people don't realize, like, Generation X, even though they're like the forgotten generation, I think they as the person put, are the older generations doing the most? No, Generation X don't do nothing. They don't do anything. I'm sorry. Like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Angela Davis, those people are baby boomers. And then you have
Mm.
Angela Rye, Amanda Seales, Jesse Williams. Those people are millennials. So what that whole I know there's Generation X people that do work. That's not what I'm saying. But the majority of Generation X people, they do community work, and I think a lot of them are lazy. I'm sorry. I don't think they
Mm.
do nothing. They're a bunch of do nothingers to me.
Yeah, so Gen Zs are doing the most, but are limited because not many of them are. So I have to agree with you, Alexis. I feel like some of the older generation, um, I feel like the baby boomers, like those that are like kind of like that retired, I feel like there's like a little bit of a mix between where they thought their kids would be and like they're seeing. So like my mom, who's older, right? She's 65. She is in this place of seeing things on TV that she saw when she was little. And so thinking that me in my 30s would be at a much different place, right? And
Mm.
so I feel like they're kind of reliving stuff, saying like, this is a weird time. I thought we would be further, but also being in that older generation of what can I do at this point? I feel like the younger generation is trying to highlight issues
Mm.
by going to social media, having the video, standing up. And I feel like there's also this older group that's like, I have my stuff, I'm secure, and I don't want to lose that. So I'm just going to stand here and not push for progress. I'm not going to push for us to go back. I'm just going to push for me to be secure.
Mm.
And it creates this divide where you have a group of a generation that they have their house, they have their 401k, and they're set. But now any other generation can't move. And I feel like those are a lot of people that are in politics. They've been grandfathered in, and they're like, I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Older generations think they're done with their part and are making the younger ones do the most. Yes. And like almost there's like this notion of, well, we suffered, it's your time to suffer. And the younger generation is saying, why am I suffering when you could have fixed this or we can use your wisdom? And it's there's not this collaboration, and it should be this collaboration so we can move forward so everyone can be okay. And it seems like there's a big struggle, and it's going to be interesting to see where we go, because I don't think it's like if the Republicans get in, this is going to be okay. If the Democrats, if the Independents, I do think it's a collaboration between state and citizens and state and voters. It's just I think honestly we're going to have to go through a shift and a restructuring for anyone to have progress.
Yeah, but the Generation X didn't do nothing. So, but they didn't do nothing. I call them the do nothing generation. Like my mother is part of that generation, and she used to talk junk, and she was like, millennials don't do nothing.
they always complain and da 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 da. A lot of them don't vote. And I said, well, most of Generation X was on crack, which is true. And she was like, how dare you say that? So most of them, not to be shady or nothing, but like a lot of them was on crack.
I'm
So
loving
they
the
don't do
glasses
nothing.
with the hair, by the way. Like that's what's the whole mood right there. I'm loving it.
Oh my God. But yeah, that's why they don't, I just don't think Generation X did anything.
Mm.
A
The
lot.
older generation could have done as much as they can, but they ignore the way the earth. Yeah. So it's this idea of, for me, I think it goes back to Alexis, kind of the things you touched upon of, they felt like they did enough, and it's up to you to fix it, and that's just, it's not working. It's not.
Yeah, but they don't do anything. The Generation X, I firmly believe they don't do nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I just walked outside. I'm walking back. But yeah, they don't
So
do nothing.
So I have a question for you. So there's been a lot of talk about having a voting plan, planning to vote, yada yada yada. Do you have a plan for if this election goes south? Meaning, do you have a candidate in mind that you want to win? And if they don't win, are you like what's your plan? Like any thoughts for if Trump is in again? Any thoughts for if Biden gets in? Like what are you thinking? Uh-oh, did we lose you real quick? So while you kind of load and let's see if you get back, I have seriously been thinking about what country can I move to if Trump is in again. Like I don't know what America, if America can handle 4 more years of not listening to scientists. I don't know if America can take 4 more years of that kind of rhetoric of white supremacy or not denouncing white supremacy, not acknowledging. We lost Lexus, but has anyone out there kind of thought about what is their post-election plan? Like, if Trump gets in, does anyone have a plan of like, hey, I'm gonna reach out to some friends for encouragement, or like I'm just really gonna need to like zone out, or like any kind of post-election plans? Like, I'm seriously considering what countries can I move to? Like, what does their healthcare look like? What does their politics look like? What is kind of going on in their systems and their culture, because I don't think for me America can take 4 more years of this. We are already in such a divide. So let's see if Alexis is going to jump on here. Uh-oh, y'all, we might have lost Lexus. Hi, Cream of Culture. How are you? But honestly, y'all, I hope you guys are taking care of yourself, because it can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming, this place that we're in, on top of a pandemic, on top of just everything that's going on. So definitely put your self-care first. Um, put, what that acknowledgement of what you need, that check-in with yourself. It's going to be needed. And I oh no, I'm back, but my phone died. All right, girl, let me know when you're ready to jump back on. Send that invite and I'll tag you back in. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Cream of Culture, I'm trying to prepare for Tuesday. I think, like we talked about earlier, I think we're gonna be some days, hopefully not weeks, before we find out who's elected. Yes, do that self check in, have that election day plan, whether that's, you are not going to watch those numbers, whether that's like you're going to have your support system on deck. Um, Waiting for you to join. Okay. Um, so, hello, Pink Sugar Black Salt. So I was just saying about having an election day or post-election day plan. So, Alexis, I'm thinking about what countries I can move to. Either Canada or London. Like I can't do 4 more years of Trump. I can't do it. I can't do it, Lexus. Do you have
I
election day plan?
My election day plan is to stay in America. Uh no matter what happens. My family on my dad's side, we have a group chat. There's like 22 of us in this group chat. Most of them are older than me, with the exception of like my sisters. Um, I don't have any brothers for the people out there. Sorry, none of that. And I told them like I have plans for myself, like my goals, my dreams of post Trump era. I want to work for the government, but I just don't want to work for this administration. So yeah, like no, I'm not leaving the country. Like if he wins, like that that is our plight. I believe, I'm a Christian, I believe that God is in control. So if he wins, God is still in control. God is always in control no matter what happens. So I will still be staying in the country, because I said something to my family, and I think this is important for all the people who are thinking about leaving. And I'll leave you with this. If you have a passport, because a passport costs money, not everyone's going to be able to spend that $100 some odd to get that passport. If you have the money to move, not everybody has the ability to move. And if you have the ability to actually get that visa to go into that country, because that costs money too, that means you have privilege, which means you need to stay to help people who don't have the privileges that you have to fight against
Stop
oppression.
guilt tripping me. I need you to pray me up out of here. Pray me out of here.
No,
I need
sorry.
you to touch and agree me out of here.
No,
I'm not
girl. No, girl. No, girl. No, girl. Because you sat there and you felt that conviction, and it came on strong. But I said, if you have all of those three things, because in order to move to another country, you need a U.S. passport, and you need a visa to that country, and you need the means, which is money and resources to move. If you have all of those things to move, you probably shouldn't move, because your means and all your privilege would be better served using it for communities, especially communities of color who don't have those means. Because
Absolutely. Even though I don't want to agree, I'm agree. Because I do think what was very interesting to me this election cycle was, like we touched upon, seeing the celebrities use their privilege to highlight, again, not necessarily one candidate over the other, but to highlight the importance of, you have a voice, get out there and vote. And so seeing that, because sometimes we think privilege is money, but sometimes privilege is influence. And so I loved seeing the different content from people, whether it would be artists, whether it was musicians, whether it was from dancers, whether it was from playwrights. There were just people using their voice to highlight the importance of voting. What even like when we went through that hard period of racial injustice, people created so much content around highlighting the issues, and it was beautiful way to see the expression and to highlight. And so, again, I don't want to agree, but using that privilege to because again, either way, whether it's Trump or Biden, we are going to go through a period post COVID where we're going to need people to come together.
yeah, and especially people like me and you, like we don't really sit down with each other and talk about like, okay, what is Liz's job? But you are, for all intents and purposes, a mental health professional and an advocate for people in your community, and that's your job. Like that is your job. That's what you do. My job is, I'm an attorney. I know on like the podcast, I don't really talk about my job for a lot of reasons, mostly because my job is like very strict about it. So that's why I don't talk about it. But also I don't talk about it because, so what? I'm an attorney, and an attorney, no matter what they're doing, an attorney's literal job is to advocate for their client. And so my primary goal is to advocate for my clients, and your primary goal as a mental health professional and a human services professional is to advocate for your clients. And the fact is that there's a lot of stuff we know, Liz, about how to navigate systems that a regular poor person doesn't know. They just don't. And it's not because they don't want to know, it's because they don't have the time, because they're trying to pay rent and take care of their children. Exactly. Exactly. It's just like, it's no way. And like, I don't think people realize it. Like people be like,
oh, poor people are poor because of this and that and the third. And I'm like, sometimes poor
And
people are
now they
poor.
them is a full-time job, and there's so many barriers. Like, again, when I think of like water barrier, and when I used to work with people that were homeless, right, and I would give them just say a task of like going down to get food stamps, but then also going to the housing place. That is on two opposite ends of the city. That's like 3 buses, and the bus is late, and so like sometimes you're only able to get through one task, if that. And so there is a burden of navigating the system. And I think, and it's going to be hard for like the middle class who is going to be needing services post COVID, even during COVID, to navigate those systems, which are already strained. So yeah.
Yeah, I
Hi,
mean,
Christina. Mm-hmm.
I think about that too, because like, you know, with everything that's been going on with COVID, I don't think people realize like the legal system is already in the States like really worn out and we're worn down, but it's been crazier. Every single attorney I've talked to, and these includes government attorneys, private attorneys, they're all overwhelmed with the
Mm,
amount of work, because like divorces have skyrocketed, domestic violence has skyrocketed, child abuse has skyrocketed.
mental health,
Yeah,
every, and it's only
everything.
everything,
And it's
everything.
only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse. And so like I think about that, and you're like, me and you, like, do I have like, for example, I have transferable skills, like, whether people realize it or not, that like being an attorney is a trade. It's a trade, because the fact that I could wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm sick of this government job, I'm opening up a law firm, and there are, you know, things out there for me to open up that firm, it's a trade. So technically speaking, I could, you know, decide tomorrow I want to go to Canada, I want to take the Canadian bar, I want to practice in Canada, and I could leave, right? I could be gone. And there would be firms that would hire me because they would be like, oh, because I do some civil rights stuff, slip and fall, torch stuff. I have transferable skills, but I can't leave my people out here. I have my
Oh,
family.
why?
You said, oh, why?
Like, Lord, just touch my spirit to just, Lord, I could be in the south of France, Lord. There's people there that need me. I could be up in Italy, you know.
Side
I'm
note,
sure there's lots of real estate that's for sale over there.
side note, the tea, as I'm drinking tea, is you should watch Emily in Paris, which is
Is
about a woman from America who moves to Paris.
Yeah.
The show is like an ABC family sitcom show. So if you like that kind of stuff, you would love it. But also, she's in Paris the whole show, which made me go, oh, I want to go to Paris so bad. But so I feel you on that.
Listen,
South of France, Paris,
you
do it.
know, but like you said, it is a privilege, and I think, again, we're going to have to examine what can I do to help my community, because even if we look at this period of COVID, you have people that have these government jobs who are leaders, and they are quite comfortable, leaving you in your pain, leaving you in your sickness, and not doing anything to help you. So it's really going to be a love thy neighbor period that we go through.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, you know, like when it was first, I don't know if you remember the recession where like a lot of people started moving home with their parents and their parents started moving home with them, like during the housing crisis. I think
Yeah,
that's going to
because I
happen
was out
again.
of a job for like 3 to 4 years.
I mean, I was out of a job.
That first,
I remember that because I was out of a job. When was I out of a job? I was out of a job for about, was it a few months or something like that? Because I had quit a job. I was working the most horrible job of my life. I won't say it because they don't need to come after you, Liz. It's me who thinks they are the seventh circle of hell. You know, if you know me, we've had conversations about this company and how they are hell on earth. And if you go there, that's your prerogative. But still, it's hell. And I talked about them and I was like, whoo, that job was hell. And I had to leave and I was like out of work for a few months. But yeah, like, you're gonna have to work for some of these hell like companies. You
girl,
are.
like it's going to be bad. Like you said about having transferable skills, that's a privilege and that is a blessing because people are going to be overworked. My heart goes out for those in the medical profession. They're about to get slammed this winter. So listen, if y'all have loved ones in the medical profession, check up on them, like drop off some meals, be a support to them families, because I think we're going to go through another shutdown. I think, with cases, like, if we don't, like, our cases are going to be up to, like, I don't even know. We don't even want to think about it. So, check on people who have kids who are stuck in the house in the winter with kids. I was talking to my mom the other day, like, people have oil. Like, you're going to be home all the time. So your house is either going to be cold or you're going to be paying so much in oil. I mean, I think we're going to go through some interesting times.
I think too, what we really need to think about, and I didn't even think about this until now, we're also going to need to think about the fact that, like, this year's Christmas is a wash. This year's Christmas is going to be a wash for so many families.
I was just
And
this
and
thing.
that's
They said
sad to
there's
think
going to
about.
be so many packages, like 7 million packages a day, one study estimated, between that Thanksgiving to the 1st of December kind of week. But Christmas is going to be hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a wash. Like, I really do think that most people's Christmases will be a wash, because even if you do have the money to buy a Christmas gift, if you do not have a stable job, or if your job hasn't done stuff to become stable, like, for example, the government I worked for, they had furlough days.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of every single opening that they had in the government. They just got rid of every single vacant job so they could put all of those set aside salaries back into the budget. So they got rid of,
Mm-hmm.
which is like crazy, right? So you think
Mm-hmm.
about it, you're like, those jobs are vacant because we need to employ those people, but they got rid of all of them. All of the vacancies are gone for one of the offices that I work with, just gone. And I expect that to keep continue happening, because it's hard.
What do you think about this job situation? This is an interesting one. Chaotic neutral with the questions. I'm loving them. Will there be different jobs opportunities from the pandemic? I think so. Like, I don't know if this was the same. No, I don't know if this was the same for you, Alexis. But I know when we had when Puerto Rico went through, I think it was like Hurricane Maria. We had jobs where people specifically were like that contact person to help connect people, and they help to like send people and connect them. It's going to be interesting to see if nonprofits, if the governments within communities create jobs that connect people with services so that it's not crazy for people. What do you
I,
think the job situation is going to look like?
well, I will say that because everybody's working remotely, it's like the first time around, it put a huge strain on just generally, like, the technology system, like the whole everything. I remember when the pandemic first started out, like, I was like, because I live in a major city, I got rid of my transit pass and then
Mm-hmm.
upgraded my internet. And, like, I did that purposely because I knew it was going to be stress and strain. But my apartment building lowered rent to attract people to move here.
Really?
Um, yes, they those people probably paying less rent than me. And so the internet is still not that great. So I'm probably going to have to upgrade my internet again. So I think there'll be tons of jobs in IT, and I think there'll be tons of jobs in the space that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like those systems, but I think the jobs I'm talking about with IT,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be money for that. But I think the
Mm-hmm.
jobs you're talking about, there'll probably be um,
Mm-hmm.
grant assistance jobs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you're
Let's
totally right.
have about 5 more minutes before Instagram shuts us off. Um, if we run out of time to finish up this last question and that last check-in, I'll jump back on for another like 5 or 10 minutes because I don't want to occupy your whole day, but I'm loving, you're just filling my cup. I needed this like energy to kind of like recharge and to de-stress. But I also know that you have to fill up your own cup, so I don't want to take too much. What do you think about the school system? So while you enjoy that tea, I'll finish up this one. Um, So like my little brother had went and did online schooling the year prior. So like there are some schools that are all online. Like and so I think that it's beneficial to have that component, especially for kids that are transient who often deal with homelessness and things like that. Again, for like a community like Waterbury, our kids often have a hard time with going to school. So I think some kind of online portion is helpful and is important.
Mhm.
In what capacity that looks like, I don't know, but I definitely think that needs to be a conversation that they're working on now. And I think our government needs to be more proactive than reactive. Like, I know, like, we need to deal with COVID and everything right now because we're living through it, but they need to have a working group who's talking about these things, because while it's great that we're talking about them and we're thinking about that, we are not the ones in office that can make these things happen. And so that's also what I think is on the line. Who is being proactive and who is a forward thinker and saying like, hey, we need to be doing something.
I agree with you. My fiance has a son. He is 12 and he's doing online school. He was with us for a little bit. And so I will say, like, online school, like, it sucks. Like, kids sitting in front of a screen all day, I don't think it's beneficial at all. And I think what they need to do is they need to moderate or create a system in which, like, these kids may be online instead of like the full school day. I personally think they need to change it for them being online school being in 2 hour blocks. And then with after those 2 hour blocks, you are working alone, doing work, having a tutor, having interpersonal time with a teacher. I personally think that online school needs to look a little similar to like how online college classes look.
So like my brother, when he was doing like his online school, it was like that. It was like, okay, like here's your courses. Like there was like some periods or like some like pre-recorded stuff. So if he needed to pause, take notes, go back and reread it, it was there. Um, but it wasn't like he had to sit there for 8 hours like he was in school. It was like if you needed extra time in this area, you could spend it. If you breezed past it, but you got the work done, that was cool. So I think playing around with the structure is helpful.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
as,
that's not what my
mhm.
fiance's son is doing. So he
And
went
I think the current is not helpful.
no, and I feel bad for him because for he's sitting in front of a computer screen. He does have like a break for lunch, but it's still like from like 8 to 2.
That's a long day. Like the fatigue, like that's a whole nother conversation. Just
Yeah.
education is a whole other conversation. But let's, while we have 2 minutes, I know we briefly talked about it for election day, having that plan, that self-care plan for election day and post-election day.
Hmm.
Um, but what do you need if you needed to check in with yourself? What are your top 3 things that you need in your cup to like make sure that you're okay, whether it's for this weekend or for election day?
Well, I will say just in general for self care, what I'm doing, I'm actually, as you can see, this hair, how it looks.
I'm loving it. It's a whole moment.
I've been taking care of my hair a lot. I actually have a hooded dryer in my home. Exactly, your face. I have a whole hooded dryer. For all
Go
of
ahead.
y'all who don't know, I'm gonna just shout out Black Girl Curls. Go to Black Girl Curls. Go to Black Girl Curls. Go to Black Girl Curls for your curls. Um, if you're a black girl, just whoop, whoop, right over to their Instagram page. Um, that's one, like taking care of my hair, and number two is staying off the interwebs. Some days, just stay off because it's full of trash some days.
Less than 60 seconds. Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing is just, reach out to your family and friends and love on them because it's important to realize that we have more in similar than we have differences.
Absolutely. Definitely family and friends. Um, hope, definitely hope. Um, and like tea. Like I had a really good cup of tea earlier. Like I'm gonna get me some more tea. I'm really gonna like love on myself this weekend because I'm nervous for Tuesday. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I did my part. I voted. I encourage you. The whole reason for this today was to encourage you out there to vote. get your friends, get your family, and remind them to vote, but also to check in on yourself and make sure you're okay. Lexus, thank you so much. You filled up my cup and my heart. Please do the same and take care. And all y'all do the same.
Bye.